So I'd like to welcome Tatenda to today's episode of Slimming Stories. Welcome Tatenda. I'm really, really pleased you're here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
You're welcome. And I've been following Tatenda on YouTube, just looking at her journey, and I love your real honesty, that real openness about your weight loss journey, and also the way that you've chosen to go into your weight loss journey, not being maybe as strict in one particular plan, and almost taking off that pressure. I think often when I've had guests on, it's almost like you can taste that pressure that they've put themselves under when they've looked to losing weight. So I'm really looking forward just to getting into that conversation and unpicking that with you. So when did you feel, Tinder, that you really wanted to make those healthy changes? When did you feel for you that you wanted to make those steps to lose weight and to feel better about yourself?
So I started my journey in 2018. In 2018, I was at my biggest. I was a size 22. However, I've never been small. I was born chubby. I was a chubby baby, chubby child, chubby teenager. But at this point, it had begun to really affect me. My confidence. I found myself kind of shying away from photos. I didn't want to go places with my family, like would go on rides with my children. I didn't want to get on the rides. And at that point, I knew that I had to do something.
Mm.
So I'm a very social person, but I noticed I wasn't going out as much. So I decided that I would attempt to lose the weight. I had no idea how to lose weight. It's not a journey I'd never taken before. Um, so yeah, it was a real learning experience for me.
And that's quite interesting, actually, when you said that you never tried to lose weight before. Many guests that I've had on the podcast have explained that they've tried something during school, during the early teens. So when you started this weight loss journey, how old was you at that point?
2018, 4 years ago, I was 36.
36, yeah, which
Um,
I think that's quite unusual to hear. So up until that point, you had that confidence, you kind of accepted that you're a curvy lady, and you was happy with that. And I wonder what happened at that point that you decided to make that change, to feel that you couldn't feel that confidence that you once felt before, when maybe during your 20s and your teens.
yeah. I think I'd got to a size that I wasn't comfortable with.
Mm.
Um, I liked being curvy. I celebrated it, and I'm married, and my husband celebrated it. So I loved it. I felt very
Yeah.
confident in my skin. It was when I didn't feel comfortable in my skin. So before, I wasn't worried necessarily about being judged by other people, or other people maybe deeming, looking at me and seeing maybe someone is big or fat. I was fine with myself.
Yeah.
It's when I wasn't okay with myself. It's when I didn't like what I was looking at.
Mm.
It's when
Mm.
my husband would pay me a compliment and I failed to receive it.
Mm.
Um, Whereas before, when I was a bit small, kind of smaller, when I got married, I was a size 16. I felt beautiful. I was fine. If you told me I looked beautiful, I believed him. But it's when I got to a size I wasn't comfortable with, then I didn't feel comfortable. I struggled to take compliments. I didn't feel like I looked nice in anything. I was embarrassed. I didn't like looking at photos. So I think the difference is I'd got to that size where I just wasn't comfortable anymore.
That size. And I think that's great that you touched on that you didn't feel that you could take that compliment, that you didn't feel comfortable in your skin. And it's important to say that that is the right time to look at losing weight, to do it for yourself, not to do it for anyone else, not to feel any pressure from anyone else, and to do it for yourself. And I love the fact that you explained that you celebrated those curves. And I person from a family where, from a family with lots of curvy ladies,
Yeah.
and to me, we've never been a really, really small size family. So it was never an issue. It was something that was accepted. I've got beautiful cousins and aunties that have got lovely, beautiful curves. But when you feel that you can't take those compliments, and when you feel that something's not right, other than that not feeling that you could take that compliment and accept that, how did you feel in your body? How did you feel at size 22? And I know that you're a nurse. How did that affect you on a daily basis of being in that body at that size?
Yeah, so I think what made me feel even more uncomfortable was the fact that I struggled to walk up the stairs. I would get breathless by the time I got upstairs. Um, I was getting a lot of knee pain, back pain, and I struggled even to sleep. When I lie down, I would really feel it.
Mm,
Um, I'll get very tired working night shifts, overly tired. And I knew it had a lot to do with, my weight and the way I was eating. And as a nurse, I'm supposed to give health advice.
yeah.
And I found myself really struggling to do that. I just sounded like a hypocrite.
Mm,
Um, so weight loss didn't just affect the way I looked and felt, it affected how I show up in my job because, it's kind of like lecturing someone on smoking when you smoke yourself. You tend to just leave that page, you just skip to the next one because
yeah.
how dare you tell someone to stop smoking? How would I say to someone, you know what, the way you're eating and your weight is dangerous. You need to lose weight when they're
Mm,
looking at me. So
yeah.
in order to do my job, I had to do something. I also sing in a local church choir,
Wonderful.
and it's I struggled to sing at
Okay.
that size. I just everything I felt very breathless
Mm,
trying to sing, and I realized that all the things that I love, I was beginning to struggle, and it was, as I said before, it was affecting my relationship with my husband because I just, I would shy away. I wasn't enjoying doing anything. Um, I didn't want to dress up. I started changing in the bathroom and not the bedroom. I didn't
oh,
want to be
bless you.
seen.
No.
So
Yeah.
I think, it's when that weight affects everything else. It's not
Yeah.
just that you look big or feel big. It's that you know that for your health, it's not doing you any good. I'm struggling to do my work. I'm struggling to do my hobbies. I'm struggling to enjoy my relationship. I don't want to go on rides with my children,
Yeah.
you know.
That's the time. That's the right time. And so you went right to that age of 36 and embarking on this weight loss journey. What first steps did you take? Was it just right, okay, I'm going to try this? Did you work your way through all those hundreds of diets, thousands of diets out there?
And
Or was you given advice? Where did you start to make that start in your journey?
I think there's some basics that most people know. I
Mm,
want to believe that probably everyone knows. And I started there. I think everyone knows the basic things like junk food is bad for you. I think people know the basics that there are more calories in takeaway than cooking at home. So I made really small changes to begin with. Less takeaways, less junk food, or less often. It's not that I didn't eat any,
yeah.
but I knew that having 3, 4 bags of crisps a day was probably not a good idea. And having takeaway 3 times a week was probably not a good idea. So I
Mm,
started with really small changes. I knew that walking or exercising 3, 4 times a week was good. So initially, the only exercise I did was walking. I don't think I could have managed anything else.
yeah.
Um, so I began to take walks every day for initially maybe 20 minutes. And I got to a point where I loved it so much I could walk for an hour, 2 hours. Um, and I went online, I researched about diets. I tried a few things. Initially, I just did healthy eating.
Yeah.
And initially, it did actually work. I lost quite a lot of weight just eating healthy, cutting down on the junk food, cutting down on takeaways. And then for some reason, my weight just stagnated. I couldn't shift the weight anymore.
Okay.
So I guess I went hunting for diets. I tried, I think the first diet I tried was actually the ketogenic diet, where you
Okay. Very
cut
brave.
out carbs. Yes. Um, did it work? Yes.
Yeah.
Was it sustainable for me? No. It literally meant giving up everything that I really enjoy. So it didn't feel like I was eating healthy for myself. It felt like I was punishing myself in order to look a certain way.
Yeah, yeah. I think ketogenic is a wonderful diet, and I've got a friend who's a keto coach, and she absolutely adores it. But also, she can get up in the morning, have bacon, have melted cheese and egg. Where for me, I love cereal, I love my porridge, I love all those things, and thinking about stripping out my carbs. You know, I make homemade pizza, so all of that is a big no-no. And I
Yeah,
think a lot of keto is about understanding where you can use those swaps and really invest in time. And I think for me, I just didn't have that time to really invest
yeah,
into understanding it
yeah.
and to simplify it. But well done for trying that. And so you
I
tried the
did. I
keto
mean,
diet.
yeah, I tried it for a good 3 months and it definitely worked.
Yeah.
It's just the problem is when you pick a diet that's not right for you,
Mm.
the day you give yourself a break, that's it. The day I decided, you know what, let me have a day off. I've done my 90 days. Let me eat a little bit of bread. You don't eat one slice, you don't eat two, you don't eat three, you eat a whole lot of bread.
Yeah.
And that's the beginning of putting the weight back on. Um, then I tried Slimming World. Um, Slimming World was really good for me. I lost 4 stone doing Slimming World.
Wow.
I think the combination of um, having a structured diet and actually attending a group, I think support is really, really important
Mm.
when you are trying to lose weight. I think to be surrounded by like-minded people who are speaking the same language as you're speaking, who are passionate about what you're passionate about at the time, really, really helps. It keeps you focused as well,
Mm.
knowing that every, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever your days may be, you are going to group. It keeps you really, really focused. So I enjoyed that and it helped. 4 stone I lost, so clearly
Yeah.
it worked.
Wonderful.
Yeah. But I think as much as it was good because it kept me focused, that's uh, kind of keeping that focus all the time then made my journey less enjoyable. It seemed like my whole life was about Slimming World,
Mm.
you know. So initially I enjoyed it. I wanted my whole world to be about Slimming World because my biggest goal was to lose weight. But the more weight I lost, I wanted to then begin to focus on other areas in my life. But I seemed to be so diet focused that I didn't want to go out anymore. I couldn't even eat a bit of ice cream with my children. It was like, no,
Yeah.
no, 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 because when I jump on those scales, I would have put on weight.
Mm.
Um, and I think I lost balance. And I think
Yeah.
when you're losing weight, you need balance. You need to be able to have Christmas dinner without feeling terrible. You need to go out for a meal or enjoy your birthday without feeling awful,
Yeah.
you know.
And I think that's really important. And for some people, they can have those days and get back on. But like what you said, sometimes for you, it was if I come off it, I'm going to have all of that bread. And I've had Christmas days, and I've not had massive gains after Christmas like this year. I didn't have I put 2 pound on over, I think, like 2 month period. But everyone is different, and you're right that focus is wonderful. That group support is absolutely wonderful too. But getting that balance is right, and I think and I've heard it in group before, having attended Slimming World, and I do love Slimming World, I love the plan. But I've heard in group people say, you know what, I'm not going to go out this weekend, so I'm going to come back with a great loss. And it's when you get to that point where it's like, okay, so I'm not going to socialize, I'm not going to have that great time of a weekend just because I see that number go down
Yeah.
on the scales. And I think that comes from my next point of anthology. I know that you're not one for that number on that scale, for really obsessing over that. So I just want to talk to you about that number on the scale and how it was for you, having gone to group, having really looked at that number, having maybe restricted how you ate with your family, not having ice cream because you was really, really focused on that number, and then moving to, you know what, I'm not going to weigh myself every week. What happened? What was the shift from going every week to be really, really focused to that, you know what, I'm going to give myself a break and maybe I'm going to get weighed every couple of weeks or every month? What happened for you there?
I think Slimming World, as I said, I absolutely love it. I lost 4 stone on it, so I know it works. However, it's very number focused. It doesn't celebrate non-scale victories. It doesn't celebrate the fact that I lost inches. It doesn't celebrate that mentally I've shifted from maybe not liking myself to now liking myself. It focuses on nothing else but what does the number on the scale say. So I could have a great week and feel really good about myself, but it's the scale that judges me at the end of the day.
Mm.
And obviously weight fluctuates. You can have a great
Yeah.
week and put on a pound and feel so bad. And you may then have your consultant say, look at your diary. There must be something you did wrong. And that feels awful.
Mm.
That can feel really, really terrible. Now, when I lost 4 stone, I was about 6 pounds away from my target weight. At this point, I looked exactly how I wanted to look. I felt exactly how I wanted to feel, but the scale didn't reflect that. So I began to not enjoy. I struggled to lose those last 6 pounds. I really, really struggled. And I got obsessive over trying to lose the 6 pounds and ignoring the fact that I was feeling great and
Yeah.
I'd reached my goal shape. I loved the way I was looking, but I was still weighing 6 pounds heavier.
Mm.
And you could say, why didn't you just change the my target? But it felt like I was cheating. Like
Okay.
I needed to at least reach my goal weight at least once. Like I
Right.
needed to get to that number. So every week for me became even more about the number.
Mm.
And I forgot how well I'd done. I forgot that I'd lost 4 stone. I forgot that I'd moved from a size 22 to a size 14. I was even smaller than I was at the age of 23.
Yeah. Wow.
But I didn't see that anymore
No.
because I just felt like a failure because I hadn't reached, that weight. So I realized that I developed a really bad relationship with the scale. It became the thing that judges me. And I forgot to, you know, I forgot that my opinion was actually more important than what the scale said. If
Yeah.
I was feeling good and I liked the way I looked, why wasn't that enough? Why did the scale need to validate me?
Mm.
You know, and so I kind of said to myself, I'm going to stop weighing myself for a while, eat healthy, exercise, wake up every day, conscious that I want to do the best for my body, for my mind, and then weigh myself at the end of the month. Because at the end of the day, I do want to see whether I'm going in the right direction or not.
Yeah.
But I want to be more in tune with myself.
Mm.
Because at the end of the day, when I started the journey, it wasn't because of the number on the scale. It was because of how I felt.
Absolutely. That is exactly it. You want to feel. That's
Yeah.
it. You want to feel different. And so many people put that emphasis, and I've done it myself. So
Yeah.
many put that emphasis on that, either that number on that scales, that number on that jean size. For me, it was like a pair of size 12 Levi's that I had when I was probably like 19. Put that emphasis, but actually what people want, they don't want, the number is irrelevant. They want to wake up in the morning, they want to feel good in the skin, they want to be
Yeah.
able to stand in front of the mirror, like that reflection, and
Mm-hmm.
smile back and feel that self-love. They want that true feeling of how health feels. And we don't always know that when we think about setting our targets,
Yeah.
when we think about how we want to feel in our bodies, but we don't ask ourselves, what do we want to feel? How do we want to feel in the morning? It's like, right, okay, this BMI, which I've heard, other guests talk about, that actually BMI, it's outdated. It's really, really outdated. We don't need to think about that. Think about how we want to feel. And I love the fact that you recognize that, but also you felt that pressure. And I don't necessarily think that is Slimming World. However, the fact that it's that weigh-in every week,
Of course.
that's a behavior that starts, isn't it? And I think as well, when I've heard people in group talk about they've got to target, and this is something that I hear a lot in Slimming World, when you get to target, that's where the hard work starts. Now, to me,
Absolutely.
that is hypnosis. get to target, that's where the hard work. It's like on constant repeat. If you're
Yeah,
constantly hearing that, it's going to be, do I want it to get to target? Because when I get to target, it's going to be even more difficult. It's going to be
absolutely.
even harder than it is now. So going from that weighing every week and then changing that to every month, how did that then feel to you? Shifting from that, how was it in the morning for you, knowing that, you know, you've not got to go to group that week?
It was liberating. I feel like I took my control back.
Yeah.
I feel like I'd handed over my power to a set of scales. And now I had the power. I got to decide whether I was doing great or not. Um, like I said, obviously I still weigh myself at the end of the month because I want to make sure I'm going in the right direction. But when I wake up, my focus isn't what does the scale say. It's more about how do I feel? What am I going to do to feed my body today, to nourish it? You know, there are things that you eat and you feel terrible. There are things that you eat and you're so proud of yourself on that day.
Yeah.
And that's my focus now. How do I make myself feel good every day?
Yeah.
And I know that naturally, when I eat healthy food, I'm buzzing. And better
Mhm.
still, if I go for a walk and then come back, I make even better choices. I've
Absolutely.
already made myself so proud by the fact that I went for a walk. When I come back, my mindset is set. I
Mm.
am enjoying it. And the only person or the only thing judging me, it's me. I'm feeling really good that I went for a walk. I'm feeling really good that I ate well. It's not focusing on what the number is. It's not focusing on what the scale will say.
Yeah.
So if I go out, I enjoy myself, guilt free. When I come back, I get back on my plan. In fact, now that I don't strictly, I'm Slimming World inspired more
Mhm.
than just, I don't strictly do Slimming World. When I go out, it's nice because I don't call it falling off plan or going off plan
Yeah.
anymore. Because what I've done now is I'm kind of doing a combination of Slimming World. So I'm doing a combination of Slimming World, intermittent fasting, and roughly calorie counting or portion control. And the way I do that is if I know I'm going out on Saturday, I know that if I'm going to have a high calorie meal, I can intermittent fast, start eating later on in the day, or eat something really light in the afternoon and then have my main meal when I'm out. When I get there, I may not know the calories, but I clearly know that the smaller the portion, the less calories.
Absolutely. Yeah. Using that common
So,
sense.
yeah. So I'm more conscious that if every diet works, why not pick out the really good stuff in each one and put them
Each one.
together?
Yeah. And I think you touched on that big golden nugget. It's about getting back in control, making those conscious choices and not just falling into that pattern. Because I know that in the past when I've had a meal that I know is going to go out, and I'll be thinking about, well, how many calories are in it? I'll be thinking about, well, is it on plan if I go out for a Chinese meal or I go out for an Indian meal? Is it going to be rich in fat? But then there was that shift of, well, actually, if I just have a lighter breakfast and a soup lunch, that's going to be better than maybe doing Slimming World where I'm on plan. I'm having like a huge jacket potato because it's free, having
Yeah.
beans because it's free, and having my A choice, which is cheese, which is fat. So having those choices and knowing that, and that's why I feel that I've been able to keep my weight down rather than having those free foods. And I know there's a lot of hate on social media around Slimming World because of the free foods, but again,
Of
I do
course.
love the Slimming World plan, but it is true. If we're having lots of calories and then we're going out for a meal, all weight loss is that calorie deficit. It doesn't matter how you dress it up. And I
Absolutely.
and I do believe that Slimming World do a wonderful job of that, of being able to provide you with a plan that's really, it's got great nutrition and you can follow it, and it's easier than having to think about the calories, having to think about the
Yeah.
proteins and the fats and the carbs and all of those things.
Mhm.
It's an easier plan to follow, but there is that offset of, right, okay, so I'm going to be doing this for the rest of my life. Let me, take back that control. And it's wonderful that you're able to do that. And and also to do that guilt-free. Because if we get into that story about all that guilt, that's when that shame comes in, and that's when it's like, you know what, I'm having this. I've deserved this food. I've paid for it. I'm going to enjoy it. And you know what? I'm going to have that. I'm going to have more. I'm going to have the drinks. I'm going to have the desserts. It kind of just, it
And then
spirals,
you think
doesn't it?
the next day I might as well have 2 days off.
Yeah.
And then I'll get back on it the day after. And before you know it, it's been a few weeks.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So I think at some point, it's, well, not at some point, but I think you need to retain power even when you're on Slimming World or any other plan.
Absolutely.
But more so, get in there, learn, because I learned so much, especially the whole food optimizing.
Yes.
I learned so much. I learned that if I want to eat a humongous plate of food, fill it with loads of speed, low calorie vegetables. I learned that actually protein is going to keep me fuller for longer. So if I put protein on there, it's more likely to sustain me until my next meal. So I've learned a lot,
Yeah.
you know. But I think at some point you need to apply common sense and seek knowledge outside of Slimming World, because it's not only Slimming World that works.
No.
You know, if for some reason you then can't afford the app and you can't check how many sins are in each, are in a packet of crisps. You need to have learned some other way of determining whether a food is good for you or not good for you, whether you can have it or you can't have it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you can't rely on paid membership for the rest of your life. What if financially you're not in a position to do that? So you can't solely rely on the plan without actually putting some knowledge into you that you can use wherever you go. I can look at a meal when I go out of, to a restaurant and make an instant decision whether this is good or not so good, whether I should or whether I shouldn't. Or if I do have it, what am I then going to do about it?
And that's wonderful. You're applying common sense, you're applying that logic. And I remember being on plan. This was probably, I want to say like 2012 or something like that. And for me, chow mein was the thing that I would have as my food at the weekend, the takeaway. And back then it got so many sins within this chow mein, and then it changed. And this chow mein had so much more sins, like ridiculously. So I couldn't really fit it in. And it was like, oh my goodness, that chow mein that you absolutely love, I can't have that now because it was like, I don't know, 28 sins or something. And it's true what you said there. It's about being able to be empowered to go out and make that. And it's not to say that, don't go to Slimming World, don't do the Slimming World plan, but it's that, I guess it's feeling almost like that calmness within to make that rational decision using that common sense that we've all got, because we all know, like you said at the beginning, we all know that if we're going to eat that junk food, it's not great food. We know what really truly fills our body with nutrition. We know that common sense, and we need to keep on with that. And one thing that I've tried and a lot of my friends are really sold on is intermittent fasting. And for anybody that's listened to this podcast that's wondering about intermittent fasting, if they've not looked into that, and for anybody listening that thinks, you know what, well, if I'm not going to eat from a set time right until maybe 11 o'clock or even midday the following day, that they will be starving. So I just want to ask you how you felt about that, because for me, I was quite surprised when I tried intermittent fasting, not just that I wasn't necessarily starving for that meal, but actually I woke up and there was no, right, I need to get breakfast now. I need to follow this set pattern that I've always done every day since I was a small child, having that cereal. How did you discover intermittent fasting, and what for you have you found the benefits to be of intermittent fasting?
For me, the way I discovered intermittent fasting is actually through my faith. I'm a Christian and we fast.
Yes.
I can honestly say for many years, I really didn't enjoy it because I felt like, oh no, it's that time of the year where I have to starve myself. But I think when someone sort of, with the intermittent fasting that I have always known, it's you don't eat anything until 6 p.m. So all day nothing until 6 p.m. And
Wow.
I found that very, very hard.
Yeah.
But now intermittent fasting, you decide how much you can stretch yourself. No one is telling you that you can't eat breakfast at all. Maybe if you eat breakfast at 8, just delay it and have it at 9. A few days later, try having it at 10. So you can pace yourself. You can ease yourself gently into it. And it's not a must. So if you wake up one day and you just can't do it, eat the breakfast. Another day, you'll find it so easy you can get to 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. So I
Mm.
think flexibility makes intermittent fasting less painful, if you like.
Yeah.
So when I decided to start intermittent fasting, um, I didn't do I didn't intermittent fast every single day. I would wake up with the intention to do it for as long as I can. And if I woke up and after 2 hours I couldn't do it anymore, I would try drinking water. If that failed, I'd have a coffee. If that just meant that I was able to delay by another half an hour, I was happy with that.
Yeah.
But what I also know is if you wake up in the morning and you have a plan of what you want to do with your day, if you wake up and you get on with your day, you're less likely to think about food.
Absolutely. That distraction. Yeah. Yeah.
That distraction, it helps. It's like when you go shopping and you're busy enjoying yourself, you can actually forget to eat lunch.
Mm.
I think we're just creatures of habit. We wake up, we eat, you wake up, you brush your teeth, you go downstairs, you make coffee, you eat. And then as you're eating your breakfast, you're thinking about what you're going to make for lunch. You
Yeah.
don't think about, well, will I actually be hungry? Maybe this breakfast will be enough. We
Mm.
just have a routine and we follow it. We eat out of habit. And I always say that's the other thing on Slimming World. I would eat breakfast, lunch, dinner, and a so-called sweet treat. Not that I needed it. It was
Yeah.
it was almost like what I was told to do, you
Yeah.
know.
To give yourself
Um,
that. And it's that number again, isn't it? Now we talk about the habit. My brother is an absolute nightmare. And it will be right, okay, what time is it we're eating? Is it 12 o'clock? I'm like, and I would literally try and get him to leave his watch at home. And I don't wear watches. I've got a thing about time. But for me, moving away from that time on the clock is so amazing. And I'll now be really busy, even if sometimes I'm getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning because I need to get things done. And then I'll have breakfast after I've had a shower, after I've done my hair, after I've put my makeup
yeah,
on. Because do I need to eat breakfast within 20 minutes of waking up, which is what I used to be when I used to have my day job with my corporate company. I used to get up, have the
yeah,
breakfast, have my coffee, and it was all very regimented. But again, we it's almost like we're dictated to that habit of that time on the clock, and then
yeah.
it's lunchtime and it's dinner time. So
That's it.
look, I'm so pleased that you've been able to move away from that. And what for you, other than having, I guess again, that more freedom, what for you have been the benefits of intermittent fasting?
For me, intermittent fasting, obviously, one big thing is actually weight loss. But I like being in control. I like to know that I'm not controlled by food. I decide when I eat because food is fuel. I'm more in tune with my body. And when my body needs the fuel, I give it fuel. I don't just eat for the sake of eating.
Yeah.
Um, I now know that my body can cope without eating anything until noon. So I listen to my body more. I feel like I'm more in tune with my body.
Mm.
And that feels great. I also find that I enjoy the feeling of an empty stomach rather than feeling full all the time. Now, when we're sleeping, everyone does intermittent fasting because when we're sleeping, we're all fasting.
Yeah.
Nobody eats in their sleep. So as much as it sounds really daunting to some people, like, what? I can't survive without eating. Well, you do
Mm.
because if you don't eat. So intermittent fasting is just saying stretch that out, stretch that window a little bit wider than just your hours of sleep.
Yeah.
Um, I like the feeling of not being bloated because when you wake up and you eat breakfast and then you eat a snack and then you eat lunch, you eat a snack, you eat dinner, you eat your bedtime, pre-bed snack and you go to bed, you're constantly bloated. your digestive system is constantly working. I like the feeling of knowing that I give my digestive system a break.
Break, yeah. And I think sometimes when you are eating, depending on what foods you eat too, such as the pasta, such as the big carbs, it can give you that bloat. And break
Yeah.
fast is breakfast. You're breaking that fast, so you don't have to break the fast at 7 in the morning or 8. You
Nope.
can do that at 11. And when I looked into intermittent fasting and when I researched that, there are studies to say if you struggle with an eating disorder, if this is something that you really struggle with, not to go through that process of intermittent fasting. But again, I would really strongly advise you just to use your common sense, to know your body and to get into tune with your body, just like what you said. If you're
Yeah.
feeling bloated, if that food that you're eating is making you feel bloated, it's making you feel uncomfortable, then maybe swap that. You know, some cereals can have that effect that make you feel really bloated. Look at a protein-based breakfast that is going to make you feel fuller for longer. It doesn't necessarily have to be, you know, bacon and eggs. There's lots of different foods that you can have,
Yeah.
and exchange that out and really start listening to your bodies. And this is what I've really loved about our chat today, is that, you know, listening to your body, getting in tune with your body and knowing that this is your body. You're
Absolutely.
responsible for your body, and taking back that responsibility, not thinking about that scale giving you what you need.
Yeah.
It's about being responsible for your health journey and making and moving those steps, moving those mountains that you need to make to
Yeah.
get where you need to be. And everyone has a different goal. Everyone wants to feel a certain way, and don't be that person where you get all the way to goal and then you think, actually, I still feel rubbish. I'm looking at my reflection in the mirror and I still don't like what I see. Because this is my whole point about doing this podcast. It's got very little to do with the food. If your mindset is not in that place, it doesn't matter what you see on those scales, doesn't matter how far they drop. If you're not in a good place mentally, you're still going to have that emptiness inside, and you're not going to feel good about yourself. And a wonderful, healthy weight loss is all about, it's a big picture, isn't it? It's the whole circle: weight loss, mindfulness, and seeing that reflection and really truly loving yourself. And I've loved our chat today. I've absolutely loved our chat. And if you've loved this podcast episode, if you'd like to go and follow Tatenda on YouTube, which is where I follow Tatenda, you can follow Tatenda on Marvellous Encouragement. I'm going to pop the links to Tatenda's YouTube in my show notes, and also she's over on TikTok and on Instagram. So I've absolutely loved our chat, and I think that you've offered a lot of insight, a different conversation, and I wish you well with the rest of your weight loss journey. And I can't wait to continue to follow you over on YouTube. Thank you for joining me today. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. Take care.